tips for parties before starting mediation. That is your topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by InstantMediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact-dependent. Hello, everyone. This is attorney Mac Pierre-Louis, lawyer, mediator, arbitrator, working throughout Florida and Texas.
And Natalia Łowska-Czajka, advocate, mediator, and arbitrator from Warsaw, Poland, but also I'm the Florida Supreme Court certified family mediator.
And Tye Bourdony, Director of Mediation at the Mediation Center of Central Florida, primary mediation trainer and full-time mediator as well.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And today we are chatting about tips before starting mediation. Tye, could you explain to us what's recently happened that caused you to want to talk about this very important topic?
Yeah, fairly recently, I had two cases, and before we actually started mediation, in one instance, there was miscommunication that led up to the mediation. So the day that we got there, one of the parties was unsure that there was going to be an attorney on the other side. And in another case, there were multiple parties. And so myself and my co-mediator, we recognized, we should speak with the parties beforehand, so that when we start mediation, we can hit the ground running. And so, in both instances, it seemed that, there's a list of things that parties should consider. I mean, it's case by case, of course, but things to do before mediation starts, just to make sure that you've set the stage the right way, that you're starting off the right way. And so the question is, well, what are some of those tips? And in this case, I'm starting with the latter first, and that is talking to the mediator, the parties, before mediation on a case-by-case basis, so that the mediator has a good idea of what's going on, so that we know what the issues are, so that we can hit the ground running, and we're not spending a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour or more to figure out where we need to go. So that would be the first, thought of mine. Is it appropriate? When do you do it? What do you guys think?
So basically you can have this sort of a meeting, but there will be mediations where will not be obligatory. So it is a little bit something that you need to figure out either upon a request by the parties, or seeing from certain just gut feelings that you have to maybe prepare the parties better. Because during this preliminary meeting, you can inspire parties also to do some more things, like consult or seek an attorney to give them legal advice. Or you can also tell them that they might be speaking to someone that they have confidence with, to maybe release some of the stress, so that they are not bringing all the high emotions into the mediation, so that they believe in some positive outcome of it. So changing the attitude a little bit. But most of all, mediation requires preparation. And this is something that everybody needs to know before going to mediation. Before starting mediation, a party coming to it needs to know what they are there for, what they would want to achieve. They already know what the case is about. They need to think what's best that they can get, what's worst that they can get, and whether they already have some ideas in mind how can get around the obstacles. Of course, this will be the mediator's job to give some hints, tips to lead them through the process, so that they will get some ideas on the way. However, if they already know what the points are, what the subject matter is, what the law says about it, they just come prepared and make this entire process smoother and easier for everybody.
Well said. I like that. You said a mouthful. You said quite a few things. All of them had really, really good points. Mediation requires preparation if you're going to have a really good mediation, and making sure that your mediator has, at the very least, all of the pleadings so that they can review everything, all of the financials so that they know what they're working with. And case by case, should the party speak with someone beforehand, always a good idea. Maybe the attorney and the mediator speak. Maybe the attorneys prepare a statement. Anyway, case by case, but preparation for mediation, so very important, is it not? Well said, Natalia. What are your thoughts, Mac?
Yeah, so one of the issues is potential conflict of interest that might arise later on, and you
Sure.
want to clear some of this up with parties. A lot of times, I'll have a person call me in search of an attorney for consultation purposes. But then during the talk, we discuss mediation as an alternative. And in that process, I might tell them, well, I can become a mediator for both of you guys. However, they need to reach out to me, and I have to let them know that I did consultation with you. But if they want to mediate, then we can certainly all come together. But I let the parties know ahead of time what might happen. The fact that I have to disclose conflict of interest, that I did a consultation with them, and the fact that if I become a mediator for the parties, then I cannot become their lawyers, either side's lawyer, later on, unless there's a waiver or an agreement by both sides.
Yeah. Is that a waivable or a non-waivable, conflict of interest? Right off the bat, you should worry, about that. And or, it really depends, because sometimes the conflict is so high between the parties, and lets you say something like that, and it could be the thing that blows it up. But by the same token, sometimes we get great parties, and then it's about building rapport, because I always want to speak with both parties beforehand. I want to make sure that there's buy-in, that something Natalia was saying, that you're building rapport when you talk with them as well. It's important that they trust me, that they can ask me questions, and that they know that I'm going to be neutral with you just as I am with them, and that speaking with them is important to me, right? Because if they trust us, they trust the process, then they're going to be more willing and able to become empowered and invested in creating this agreement. But it's case by case, isn't it? I mean, it really depends on what's going on in that particular moment, and it falls to the mediator to kind of get a sense, what's going on here. What do I need, from these parties? What can I say to them? What should I say to them? And so I don't always think it's important or appropriate to have pre-mediation consultations, like in depth with each party. Sometimes it's enough that we talk, and then they send me pleadings, and then I have a really good idea. These are more run of the, I hate to say run of the mill. There's, every mediation is totally different, and it's very individual to the parties. But some mediations, it's enough for me to read all the pleadings beforehand and to have spoken with everyone, because they give you an idea of what's going on, right? And in those communications, there's so many things that we say again and again and again. You should always speak with somebody, and have you spoken with somebody, and what have you. But it's case by case. The mediator has to think, what is it that's going to help me help them best in this particular case. But it's a long list of potential maybes, and then case by case, you're like, ooh, this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. um, well, good point.
So back to preparation. There is a lot of materials available now in the internet, including our YouTube channel, Lawyers and Mediators International. We talk a lot about mediation, knowing how beneficial it can be to every single party. You can learn more beforehand so that you know what you can expect from the process, what are the traps that you might have, maybe that will answer some of your doubts. And we have also a mock mediation on the channel. So if you want to, we have great attorneys from all over the world who agreed to be with us on the video, and we were settling a family case involving some international aspects of it. So it's also it was great fun to do that. But I think it's also quite high ranked on our channel to have a look at it. But recently, and this is, I don't want to maybe brag about us this way, but one of our co-speakers on the podcast, Fran Brockstein, received a very good email from two gentlemen who were very appreciative of what we are doing, because that helped them structure them thinking and know what they will be going through. And so she received and passed it on to us some words of appreciation from people who were watching and found it useful. So here we also want to say thank you, because it motivates us to share the knowledge, share the things we know. So everybody watching, if this is any use of it for you, that's the biggest pleasure we can have out of that. And thank you for watching.
I love that, because the point really is, get prepared. What do you not know? Find out about this process. Watch, speak with somebody about the mediation process. Apart from the mediator as well, make sure you're comfortable with your mediator. And yeah, there are so many resources like those individuals you were talking about. In watching, they're going to be less worried. They're going to be more prepared. They're going to be more comfortable in mediation. And that process, if they buy in the right way, and it's not just that, you can also, are the parties able to talk with each other before mediation? Sometimes they can, right? Mediation works, especially if we do mediation before, any kind of court order. Those parties that can work well together, they have really good outcomes oftentimes, right? So again, it's case by case, but what are your resources? Find them. They're out there. And this, instant mediations and the videos and podcasts you do are a great place for parties to try and understand what it is that they're in for.
Yeah. Tye, what are some practical tips for parties before starting mediation? Remember when we were starting the pandemic, we were giving lots of people tips on doing Zoom mediations, for example, because it was so new to a lot of people. What are some practical tips, would you say?
Have your information handy, right? If you're doing your homework, if you've spoken to the mediator, right? What are the things that you're going to need at mediation so that you can come to agreement? Your financials. Do you have all of your financials? Did you guys do a credit check? Do you know all of the debts that are out there? Do you know all of the account numbers? Do you know everything that needs to be spoken of? Do you know a good idea of all of the things that you guys need to be actively, dividing? Do you have specifics on all of the properties? Do you know what it is we need to talk about? The more prepared the parties are for mediation, the better mediation is going to be able to handle their issues. I mean, you can come back, but when we say something like, I can't say how often, well, what are the debts that you guys, well, we don't know. I don't know. There's research that needs to go in. You need to have a good idea of all of the issues, because what if you don't talk about something? What if we didn't bring something up? And it's, your mediator is going to go through everything, but what if a debt was left out? What's the legal effect of that debt, for instance? So be prepared, right? With respect to everything that you need to talk about. Another good reason to get consultation.
Having said that, I think that will be it from us for this little portion of information before starting the mediation. I think we'll talk more about it, but this is just to digest, think, and go for more into our channel. Please stay with us and stay tuned. And thank you for watching or listening on the podcast platform.
All right, guys. Until next time.
See ya.